Many people talk about the ups and downs of married life, but no one really prepares you for life after your spouse passes away. Welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, a safe place for widows, widowers, and their friends and family to talk about love and loss. Find comfort as you listen to honest conversations between Tina and invited guests who've experienced the loss of their forever partner. Share their stories of love, grief, and healing. You are not alone in this journey. Join today's episode and discover a wealth of resources and learn how to connect with others who are traveling the same path. This is Widowhood Real Talk with Tina.
Hello, Tomice Scott. Welcome to the Widowhood.
Hello everyone.
So, when you hear "Welcome to the Widowhood," what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Whew. When I hear that, it's something that I'm still getting used to. But it is something that I am really starting to embrace
Hmm.
and taking it by stride, not looking at it in necessarily a negative aspect, but more in a way of to shed light to others. So
Okay. Now, when somebody's looking at you, or when you look at yourself and you think of what a widow is, and then you see yourself, I mean, I know people are going, "Tina, you said widowhood, like she part of the widowhood." That means you are a widow, and how old are you?
I am 37.
Okay,
37.
girl.
Yeah. Yeah, 37, 37. And you're right, Miss Tina. Like when I never in a million years would have expected to be a widow at the age of 37. As a matter of fact, I honestly, when I heard the word widow, I was always thinking, oh, that's somebody that's, 60, 70, 80 years old.
Right.
Never would have imagined that I would hold that title at the age of 37. And so it is definitely something that, I never would have imagined, but it's true. I am 37-year-old widow.
And the thing that wanted people, and thank you, but the other thing to consider, you have actually accomplished a life goal. We take these vows and we sometimes kind of easily go through some of the things we say, and not everyone's vow said this, but it's very common. Till death do us part.
Absolutely.
Even though it's painful, it is difficult to know that we ended our relationship in the most organic way
Yeah.
versus a divorce or versus a separation. There is some honor to that, and we try to find that glimmer of that hope in this painful experience.
Yes, you are absolutely right. I had an issue where I was constantly, when you go through losing a spouse, you oftentimes focus on the fact of the loss.
Yes.
And the thing about it was you're absolutely right. I had a good 4 years married to my husband, but I've been with him since I was 16 years old. And we have 2 kids together. And so I tend to cherish all of the memories that we had. And I'm glad that I'm with him, and you're right. Unfortunately, it ended in the other D word, death versus divorce. But um, those times that I look back and I'm like, wow, I actually got a chance to experience love. I got a chance to
Mm.
experience being a wife and us raising our kids together. And so it's those memories that shed a little light on becoming a widow, a young widow.
Thank you. So let's talk about 16-year-old, and who is this gentleman that you met and how did this all start?
Oh, I have such a beautiful love story. I thoroughly enjoy telling it. So I met my husband through a mutual friend in high school. My husband name was Shasta Scott, and he was a basketball player, very great basketball player
Mhm.
for high school. And so basically, his best friend was dating my best friend,
Okay.
and so his best friend said, hey, there's this guy. I really think you guys will hit it off very well. He loves basketball, but I think you could be the one that could come into his life. And, I think y'all would be a good match. And so at first I was like, no, I'm focusing on my studies. I don't want no boyfriend. I'm about to graduate.
She
Uh,
said no.
I said, no, 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 no. I'm not trying to have any type of relationship. I just want to get through high school, go to college, and then I'll think about a relationship. But we ended up exchanging numbers, and at that time, neither one of us had our driver license. So we were basically I call us phone pals because all we did was talk on the phone. We couldn't see each other, but our connection was so strong. We had a very great connection. And so as time went on, I eventually got my driver license. And so you can kind of say we were a blind date because I had never seen him in person.
Oh, okay. So hold on. When you said 16, I envisioned video chatting. I envisioned being on the phone and seeing each other. Numbers were exchanged. No one saw each other.
Mm,
Okay.
yes, no one saw. So we had those little, I don't know if anybody remembers those track phones, no Nokia track phones where you can
Yes.
and text as long as you got minutes on there. But as soon as those minutes run out, you got to go reload. And so that is where we were. There was no iPhones then. iPhones hadn't, believe it or not, iPhones had not came out yet. And so we were strictly just communication, just texting and talking to each other throughout the day. But then I got my driver license, I got a car, and so I said, I'm gonna go meet this man. I gotta see him. We've been doing all this talking because we had been talking for about a good 6, 7 months. I was like, I've got to meet him.
That's a long time.
A very long time, very, very long time. And so he was playing football at the time, and my parents finally gave me permission to drive to go and see him, which he stayed about 30 minutes from me. And so I went and was nervous, anxious, because I was like, oh Lord, like what if I meet him and he's not what I think he looks like? All of those jitters and nerves. But it
Right.
was like when we first laid eyes on each other, it was like love at first sight. And so it was beautiful. We instantly hit it off, and from there we were inseparable.
So he
We
went to
were
a different high school than you, I take it. Because when you first said exchange numbers, I thought you guys were in proximity. Like he knew somebody from a different high school and different area altogether.
Yes, yes. So two different high schools. He was at a little small country town, I like to call it. Which honestly, to this day I'm still like, how did how did I even cross paths with your best friend to get to know, but to
Right.
know you? But we did, and we started our life together. We did break up after my senior year, actually during my senior year, we actually
Mhm.
broke up. And I thought that was it. That was my first love, my first heartbreak. And so I was just like, I'm done. I'm just gonna focus on school. But ironically, he ended up moving a little bit further away. I ended up attending Georgia Southern University in college, in Statesboro, Georgia. And he wrote a letter to my mom asking her if she could give, yes, yes, yes. He wrote a letter asking if she could give it to me because he wanted to apologize for us breaking up and wanted to see if we could try to rekindle and get back together because I was the love of his life. He made me a little CD that had all of our favorite love songs on it. So of course he won me back over.
Okay, so hold on. What happened to the best friend and them dating? Did they get together or
No, well, they ended up breaking up as well.
okay,
Afterwards, he ended up she ended up going off to another school, and
okay,
he moved on to someone else. So yeah, they ended up going their separate ways. But I'm
okay.
still really close with him to this day. He's like he's still my
Oh,
brother.
okay, nice, nice. So your husband's name again? You said that really fast. I didn't catch it all.
Shasta, like the soda. Shasta, like Shasta Cola.
Shasta, Shasta Scott, though. Okay.
Shasta Scott, yes, ma'am.
So you went away to Georgia Southern University. What did he do after high school?
So after high school, he actually took him a break. He decided that he really didn't know what he wanted to do. Like I said, he was very big on basketball. Which about my midway through my semester in college, he ended up getting a basketball scholarship to go play at a college called Iowa Western.
Okay.
So then I freaked out because that means long distance. And in the midst of our long distance discovery, I found out I was pregnant with our son, Amor.
Oh,
Yes. So, that was frightening for me. And of course, my mother thought that, it would be best for me to come back home to my hometown, Macon, Georgia, to finish school because she said, I just don't see you raising a baby, by yourself up there and without any support. So
okay.
I ended up going back home, finishing my studies. He ended up going to Iowa, which then again, we broke up again.
I was gonna say there had to be even some underlying tension, thinking that we're dating, I'm pregnant, and now you go further away. There would be a lot of underlying tension from the idea that you're now a child and he moves further away, and you're going, but it's not because of the baby. And you can only think that it is because
Because of
of,
the baby.
right. No
Because
matter what anything is said, it's like you couldn't have got a scholarship someplace else. So I'm sure it was emotions heightened.
yes, it was, and it was one of those things 'cause I didn't wanna leave school. I had just made some of the best friends ever. I was just starting to really, get into the swing of being a college student, and I just felt like I had to put my dreams on hold, um, to allow him to, go and do whatever he wanted to do. So it was definitely, some hurtful situations. I definitely used to get mad because it was like, yes, I did go back to school, but it was not the school of choice that I wanted. So that really made a difference in our relationship, and it kind of and that's kind of why we broke up, because I felt like you are, enjoying your college life, you got your college friends, you're the star of the basketball team, you're going out partying. Meanwhile, I am busting my butt, tired, in a very tedious program, education program at that, because I was going to be an educator at that time, trying to manage being a new mom, trying to manage going, school and working, and I'm not enjoying life. I can't have any fun because I'm a full-time mom now. So there was definitely some tension between us when he was there.
I can see that. Tomas, if someone listened to this podcast and they find themselves being a young single mother in school and struggling, what would you tell them?
Don't give up. Um, that is something that I have tried to encourage. Rather a widow, not a widow, young woman, single, however you want to put it. I've tried to encourage people that it definitely can be done. One of the things that really got me through school with a child was my best friend. She, having that support system helps out a lot. And my best friend, my mom, and I had a couple of other family members that were like, don't let, because you've had your child, the young age, don't let that stop you from getting your education. You can do it. Now, is it going to be tough? Absolutely. Will it be worth it? Absolutely. And so I tell anybody, I have went and all the way up to getting my master's degree, two degrees with two kids. And I've been able to do it, but it's all because of me believing in myself and having that support system to when times get hard and you want to give up, having that person like, you got this, you can do this. And I'm a living witness. It can be done. It definitely can be done.
Thank you. You mentioned something about believing in yourself. Sometimes when we hit adversities and people may attach shame to decisions or things that are done, how did you persevere to continue believing in yourself and not feel ashamed or feel like what the naysayers or people are whispering and doing?
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. So I grew up in a Baptist church, where, of course, in the church, said that you're not supposed to have a child out of wedlock. You're supposed to be married, have a husband. And so and I mean, everybody knew I was into the church, deep into the church. And so getting pregnant at the age of 18, and, it was an embarrassment to me. I felt like I was, I had let my community down, I had let my family down, and I had let myself down. But I had to realize that, we all mess up in life. Nobody's perfect, and my religion, I believe we have a God that forgives. And no matter what you do, he's there to give you grace. And so when I got that mindset that, my child was not a mistake, my child to me, I felt like was purpose, because I feel like it's because of him. It motivated me because I knew the type of life I wanted to live. I knew the type of life I wanted to have for him. And so with me having him, I knew I knew who I was. I knew that yes, I had a child of wedlock. However, that does not define me. That doesn't define who I am. And so I kept that mindset, and that, that was a decision that I made. But guess what? At the end of the day, there's something bigger for me on the other side. And so I'm going to push through, because I believe that my story is going to be able to help somebody else. And so that is what stayed in the forefront of my mind, and dealing with any type of shame, guilt, that no matter what, I was going to make it.
Thank you. Two other questions along that line. To someone that is they're this church going person, and they're judging someone on their mistakes, what would you say to them?
I would say, and this is something that I always tell anybody, our goal, especially as Christians, is to get people to come to church, is to get people to believe in God. And you can't expect to open that door or try to be that light, because that's what our jobs are as Christians, is to be that light to help others come to Christ, so that they can get that abundance grace that we have, so that we can get that joy. So how are you going to have that door open saying, come in, come in? He does not judge you, he loves you, but you're not living Christ like. You're putting your name on somebody, you are shaming somebody. And so my thing with that is that, do your part, because we are all sinful. We have all sinned. Nobody is perfect. Like God says, a cusser is the same thing as a murderer in his eyes. And so if you can't say you want to help somebody, but then you curse them at the same time. Now, if you are here to help, try to guide them in the right direction, that's something totally different. But nobody's perfect. We nobody. And so, just be there as a help, but don't be there as a burden.
Thank you. One last question on this particular topic. You mentioned going to church and a relationship, knowing God. Is there a difference between the two, having a relationship with God or going to church? Do you have to do both? What does that look like for you?
So I was brought up on the principle of, because a lot of people feel like you have to go to church in order to have a relationship with God. God's relationship, you can have a relationship with God anywhere. You can have a relationship in your home with God. Church is the community, is the family. I think it's what brings everything all together, that you're in agreement and fellowship with others that are believing the same thing that you're believing. But church starts with you. Your relationship with God is what he's seeking. He's not seeking to see that you are there every single Sunday, sitting in the fifth pew saying amen. He's looking to see, what is your connection with him? Do you trust him? Do you have faith with him? Are you seeking to grow with him and learn his principles? That is really what the church is. And I think a lot of times people feel like, because I've heard people say, if I just can get my life right, I can come to God. No, he says, come as you are. You can, if you are drugs, or if you done adultery or whatever, he has open arms. He wants you to come. He wants you to get saved. He wants you to believe in him. And so don't feel like you have to go to church every single Sunday. I think that's amazing if you do, but church is just a place. Your body, your relationship with God is where it all starts.
Thank you. So you're 18, you have your son, and you guys break up again.
Yes.
Whose decision was this breakup?
Well, he kind of told me, and my husband was a very honest man. He said, "Babe, I'm going to be honest with you. I love you too much to be up here with these other girls, which is temptation, to cheat on you. So I would rather us be friends, raise our son, than go out here and cheat on you and do something that I regret." And talking about something that just broke my heart again.
Yes.
But it was weird because I respected him on telling me that, but at the same time, it was like, really? Like, you came and chased me back down. If you weren't ready, why did you come after me? I was okay at Georgia Southern by myself. You wanted me back, and this is what you do to me.
Mm,
So it was, and that is when depression set in for me. It's
okay.
that in it was it was a dark part of my life because I always grew up with the mentality that I don't want to be a single mom. I want to raise my kids in a two household, mom and dad together. Because I had saw that for a period of time in my life. My parents ended up getting a divorce later on as I got older, but for the majority of my life, I was in a two-parent home. And so, I had to swallow that pill and face the fact of, you know what? I may have to raise this him, by myself, or I may have to raise him where me and Shasta will not be together. And so you add that on top of I've been taken away from a school that I love. I'm back home. I can't have any fun. I mean, partying. Who I didn't step foot in a party. I'm
Mm.
having to work long hours. My program is tedious. I got a son that I need to take care of. And now the love of my life is telling me he would rather us separate so that he don't cheat on me. So that broke me. It broke me to the point where I was just like, you know what? I quit. I don't I'm just giving up. And so that was a very dark part in my life. Very dark.
So thank you for being so transparent. People often use words like dark or depression, but what did that look like? How would you describe what were some moments you remember in that?
I remember there were times where I would wake up and I was lifeless. I had no drive, no aspiration. My self-esteem was at its all-time low. I didn't think I was pretty. Didn't think I was worthy. I felt like, what, I actually felt like, it's my fault that I had a kid out of well, this is just punishment for me. I didn't really I would talk to my friends, but then I would kind of distance. So it was like I just felt alone. It just felt really alone. And all of those things that I had before, the shame, the embarrassment, the guilt, all of that was kept surfacing. And so I was in a really bad place. I was in a place where I lost me, had no idea who I was, and my drive and my goal for school, it was diminishing. Like at this point, I was just doing it because I needed to do it, but my passion, my drive, all of that had left.
What was the turning point to regain yourself?
So my best friend again, and as a matter of fact, it was so funny because my best friend uncle was my pastor. And so she stayed on me. Her name is Brittany. She stayed
Hey,
on me.
Brittany.
Hey, Brittany. She stayed on me and she said, "No, no, ma'am. You gonna we in this program together. I'm gonna help you." She was like, I got your back. This should be even more motivation for you. If Shasta decides not to come and step up and be a dad, you got to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. You know the life that you want to live. You've told me your goals, and so we're gonna tackle this out together.
Oh,
And I,
Brittany rolled up her sleeves. She came for you.
oh, she
Oh,
did, and she still does to this day.
okay.
Um, but yeah, it's kind of like she just took me and shook me and was like, you gotta live for you. You've got to push yourself. Me and you start this program, and we're gonna finish this program together. I'm gonna be
Mm.
there to help you with the more. Um, but you're gonna get this done. And it was at that moment I was just like, you know what? You're right. I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing this for Shasta. A piece of me was doing it for my son because I wanted him to have a better life.
Right.
But you know what? This is something a goal that I set even before I had kids. And so I am going to tackle this one by one, whatever I got to do, the late nights, the whatever I got to do, I'm going to do it. And so that is when I, put that thing in gear and was like, I want to be a college graduate. So that's what I did.
And what do you remember of that day of graduating from college?
I was so overwhelmed. It was just so much because honestly, just going through all of that and then having a couple bumps in the roads, and I ended up actually failing a class, a math class, right before time to graduate in May.
Oh,
So talking about another thing just knocked the light.
what?
I mean, and then, I'm having to attend my best because my best friend Brittany still graduated in May. Having to not be able to walk with her, after we had worked together for so long. That was another turning point. But I went back, I took the class, passed it, and was able to walk in December. And just having that moment of just walking across the stage and my baby's in the audience and my mom and my dad, they're there. Mind you, I was the first college graduate. So, 'cause my dad went into the military, my dad was in the army, and, my mom just decided to do, she just wanted to work, to start her career. And so I was the first college graduate, in my family, and so just knowing that I did that, and I did that with a baby, you know,
Mm.
um, was just tears of joy. It motivated me so much that I went back again a couple years later.
Wow. And what are your degrees in?
So I have a bachelor's degree in early childhood special education. I have a master's degree in mental health counseling, and I just recently had a add-on certification in school counseling.
Wow. So you graduate, and where does life go from there?
So I graduated from getting my bachelor's degree. I immediately go into the workforce, and so I became a teacher with my specialty in special education. And so I taught pre-K. So I got a chance to work with the babies at the age of 4. And it was a little tough. It was a little because having to deal with 4-year-olds all
They can
day.
be gremlins. They can be cute and they can be gremlins.
Yes. Oh, I mean, I had 22 of them.
So you
22.
don't know what you're getting some days.
I'm telling you. And then mind you, some of these babies are coming, they're not diagnosed with anything.
Right.
So, and it's just a lot. And so it was very tedious, but very rewarding at the same time. And so I did that for a couple of years. I taught in a pre-K class until I eventually got asked to take over the special ed um, pre-K program, which that's another ballpark. That's another whole entity of it. But
Yes.
I thrived. I really thrived, and it was one of those moments where I was like, "Wow, this was all worth it." And it was double good for me because my son was not in school yet, but I knew what he was gonna have to know.
Yes.
Like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and prepare him, get him ready because when he gets to pre-K, he's gonna be the top of the class. I already know he is. So
Right. You already leaned in. You had the scoop.
yes, yes. So I was like, this is gonna be perfect for him. He's gonna be smart. I'm gonna have him down pack. And so it was a very rewarding career. Very, very good. And then I even ended up while I was in school, and at this time, me and Shasta had rekindled.
Okay.
We had rekindled again, and he was kind of just trying to figure out life because he was done with school. And so he had a whole idea of I want to go play pro ball overseas. So again, I was like, you gotta leave me again,
I'm
God.
about to say, did you say what long distance
Yeah,
again?
again. And then at this time, now I'm pregnant with our daughter Skylar. And again, I'm in school getting my master's degree.
Okay. Now, when you say rekindle, let's back up a little bit. How did that happen?
So, so he actually ended up moving back to Georgia.
Okay.
He ended up going to school at Clayton State University. And at that particular time when he moved back, he actually moved back with his then girlfriend. So now I'm having to learn how to co-parents per se with him having a significant other, which was tough, very, very tough. But we actually co-parented pretty good together. Because I kind of told him like, look, this is it. This is how we're gonna do it. You know, just make sure whoever you got around our child, make sure she's good because I'm that mama. I'm Mama Bear. Don't make Mama Bear come out. You know, with my baby. um, and so I think because we were so close, and Shasta was always about he wanted his family together. I mean, he would do stuff like he would talk to my best friend Brittany, have her to call me because I was like, no, I'm done. We done tried it out. I don't want this anymore. He would talk to his best friend that introduced us, and so I kind of got to a point where it's like, you know what, I do want my family. And hey, we've grown up, we've matured some, so why not give it another try?
He wore
And
you down.
he did. He wore me down. He
And
did.
so,
Now he could always do that. He knew it too. He knew he could always just say the right words. And baby, we're gonna go to counseling together. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. But over and all, we tried. We made it work. We got back together, and
and how old were you when you guys got back together this time?
so when got back together, I was in my late 20s.
Okay.
Late 20s, like, well, mid-20s. We was in our mid-20s, and um, I would love to say that the breakups ended there, but it did not.
Girl.
I know, I'm telling you, this story, it just had it truly was a roller coaster. We broke up again. We had got engaged because mind you, at this time we're just dating. So we got 2 kids. We've been together since off and on since we were 16. We're in our mid-20s, and I'm just like, okay, look, I want to be a wife. I want to, I want us to do it right. I want, we're together. I want us to become one. And so with that, I kind of applied the pressure a little bit. I kind of gave him an ultimatum, which ladies,
Mhm.
please don't do that to a guy. Please don't give a guy an ultimatum.
Oh, why do you say that?
Oh, because we had I had then moved to another school. We were getting ready. We had just moved into another apartment because he had got a job working up in Atlanta, and the commute from Macon to where he was working was like an hour and 45 minutes every day. But we had gotten engaged. He actually had got my best friend, a couple of my other friends. I was throwing him a birthday party, and he had got it connected where he was proposing to me at his birthday party. Um, and so my family was there. He proposed to me. And it was a beautiful thing. I said yes. I cried like a baby. So it's on YouTube somewhere. The whole video is on YouTube somewhere. And but I felt like we were ready. I thought he was ready. But then about 2 weeks to our wedding date, he got cold feet. And through a text message, he said that he didn't feel like he was ready to be a husband. Mentally, financially, he was not where he needed to be. And that he felt like we should call the wedding off and give it more time. So
Mm-mm.
again,
Mm-mm. 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 What were you thinking at this moment? What do you recall?
I remember saying, I hate you. I was like, you know what? I'm done. You wasted my time. You keep playing with my feelings. I was like, this is it for me. I didn't even reply back to the message. I was on my way to work. I had just dropped our daughter off to daycare on my way to work, and I get that text. And so it was so bad. Like my anxiety and depression set in so bad that my principal was like, go home. You're not mentally here today to be with these kids. Just go home. And I remember because at that time I actually was commuting because we had just moved a little bit closer to Atlanta, but I was still kind of working south of that. And so I remember going home, and I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I can't, like, I need to come back and live with you. I can't keep doing this mentally.
Because y'all were living together, weren't you?
We were living together. We had just got an apartment together.
So he
And
woke up and saw you that day and then text you afterward.
well, no, so he would, so when he's worked overnight. So
Okay.
when I was headed to work, he would be coming home, but we
I
never
see.
crossed paths. And so I don't know what it was. He had started acting a little strange leading up to that. I knew it was something like he real quiet, or the days that he was off, he was always gone. He wouldn't, be at home. And I used to be like, you don't hardly see me as it is. Like, why are you not at the house? Um, but when, he did that, I just like that was it for me. I was like, I can't keep going through this roller coaster at all. I can't keep doing it. And so
And this
um
is the 3rd or 4th breakup at this point?
it's about the fourth one. About the
Okay.
And so I was like, I just can't keep doing this. You're playing with my feelings, you're playing with my emotions. And so called it off, moved back in with my mom, moved all of my stuff back um to my mom's house, and then just tried to push through with that. And it was another dark moment, very difficult, because now I have two kids at this time, and just trying to juggle the facts of, what, I may not ever be a wife, like this man may not ever marry me, like what is it and I you start blaming yourself, like what is it about me, what am I doing wrong, like why doesn't he see that I'm a lovely wife, I'm supporting him, I'm working, like why doesn't he see the good in me? But it was then that I had a self discovery. I had to really start realizing that it's not a me problem. It's I'm content with me. It's just probably is most likely something that he's dealing with, and he has to deal with that on his own. And I would want him to deal with that on his own before I became his wife. And so that's kind of how, that happened. We separated, we still co-parented. And he tried to come back a couple times, and I was just like, no, nope. I told him, I said, if you want your family, we're gonna have to do counseling. And he did. We did.
Couple of questions. Thank you. For the woman that has been broken up with the same guy over and over, what would you say to her?
Um, I would tell her to definitely listen to what they're saying, because Shasta was telling me a whole lot. He was really telling me like multiple times that he wasn't ready. But oftentimes when we're so in love with somebody, we love the potential. We love what we yeah, he's saying he's not ready now, but if I just love him a little harder, or if I just push him, or if I just show him that I can be a good wife, it'll change. And the thing is, sometimes it doesn't. And oftentimes guys deal with trauma and deal with different issues way differently than women do, and they handle things differently. And I know for Shasta, one of his main things was that he felt like he couldn't be the provider because he was lost. He was trying to find him in the midst of all this. Basketball wasn't flowing correctly, money wasn't coming in how he wanted it to, and so in his eyes he felt like he was less of a man, because the man's supposed to be the provider. And so I would definitely say to listen to what they're saying, and listen to yourself, because there were times in my mind that I knew he's not ready to get married, and it was a thing that I was so caught up in, because everybody kept saying, when that boy gonna marry you, when that man, you need to get married, you up here shacking, you up here playing wife. And so that got into my ear, listening to what everybody else was saying, and so I tried to force it into him, which ended up backfiring on me.
Thank you. That for oftentimes people of color have to put on this strong facade, and they're not always able to say, I'm having a mental crisis or a mental breakdown. What in your life allowed you to have the space to do that and feel comfortable expressing that's how you felt instead of a facade?
Well, I've always been the type of person that if I'm feeling some type of way, I'm gonna get it out. Because I discovered a long time ago, I discovered as a child that trying to holding stuff in was only causing more hurt to me. And so I learned that as a child, that it's best for you to get out your feelings versus holding them in. And so I started venting. I started really just talking to people, but the one thing that I messed up in, and sometimes I still do mess up in, is that when I'm venting, I'm looking for validation from somebody else. So I'm looking for somebody either to side with what I'm saying or what I'm feeling or validate my feelings, when if it's your feelings, you don't need validation. And so really just getting it out, talking to someone. I too got a therapist. The main thing, I got my own counselor. And at first I even thought that that was hypocritical. It's like, I'm a therapist. I'm a counselor. I don't need no counseling. I'm all right. Like, I can handle my own problems. Mm-mm.
No,
Everybody
baby.
Everybody needs somebody they can talk to. Everybody. I'm a big advocate for getting counseling. And I know for the African American community, that is something that has been kind of like even as a child, you would hear what happens in his family stays in his family. Ain't nothing wrong with him. Ain't nothing wrong with her. That was a and it still is a stereotype. Like you if you get a counselor, you crazy. No, no, not at all. I mean, I think if it had not been for my counselor, Lord knows, like in prayer, I would not be to the point that I am now. But definitely finding you somebody you can talk to, somebody you feel comfortable, because everybody's not for you. You can't vent to everybody. You got to vent to somebody that has your best interest at heart and is there to help you get through those tough times.
Thank you. So you move back home and you go through all this. Where do you go from there?
So move back home. Still trying to find me now, because now I'm totally lost on what are my next steps. I end up moving to another county, which I'm currently at now. And I pushed through. I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, I've got to show up for my kids. I got 2 kids. My son's getting older, my daughter's getting older, and they're looking at me. They're depending on me to help them navigate this life. So I dug in deep into my studies. I made sure that I was, involved in their school life. Shasta would still come. I would make sure that he still had that opportunity to see the kids, because that was a thing for me. No matter what me and you are going through, at the end of the day, those are still your kids. And I'm not going to take your right as a father and being able to be involved, because I'm not bitter. I'm hurt, but those kids had nothing to do with the decisions that we made. And so
Okay, so hold on right there for a second. I want you to speak to the person that is holding the children back because they are bitter.
you got to let that go. All with me working in the education system now as being a school counselor, there are so many kids that come in, because kids are very smart. From the age of 4 all the way up till they graduate, kids can pick up on things. And when you are holding kids as, to me, feels like hostage, because you're upset with what you and your significant other went through, you are doing more damage to those kids than anything. You are hurting them. And I know that there are some bad mothers out there, or should I say mothers that have made some bad decisions. I know there's some fathers out there that have made some bad decisions. But kids need to be able to see their parents in spite of. Now, I know there's some situations where, violence or abuse, and I get that. But if you are holding a kid back because you guys split up and he decided to move on his life, or she decides to move on her life, you got to let that go, because I'm telling you, these babies are suffering, and all you are doing is creating a generational pattern, because what they see is what they're going to do. So I say, whatever you need to do, sit down as a family, have that conversation. You can still set boundaries as far as, when he can see or she can see, but don't hold those babies as hostage. At the end of the day, it took a mother and a father to make them, and they need to be able to be with both of them.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So you're back at your mom's. You're getting through this rough period. And who shook you up? How did you come out of this one?
So I really myself. I just got this, I don't know, something just kicked up in me. I don't know if it was just that extra prayer I was saying every night, or my kids, but I just got this thing in my head that, you know what, at the end of the day, I'm still a mom. I've still got to take care of these kids. So I'm going to continue on my journey. I set a goal for myself. I said that I wanted to accomplish these things. I said I wanted to make sure I gave my kids the finer things in life. And that's what I'm going to do. And I mean, when I tell you I attacked it, that was my start of my becoming year. I excelled so much. I made new friends at my new school. I got involved and really just pushing yourself. I refuse to sit at home and cry because at this point now, those tears have turned into power for me. And so it was like, you know what? You got to get up. Nobody's going to give you this. Nobody's going to give you this life that you want. Nobody is going to, be that mother like how you're going to be that mother. So put that thing in drive, hit the gas, and let's go. And that's exactly what I did. I pushed forward and prayer. I continuously my faith grew even stronger with God because I knew it was because of him I was able to get through those hurdles.
Wow. So how did he get back in?
So, I noticed Shasta ended up getting very close to God. And it's funny how God, to me, he just works in mysterious ways. His faith in God grew tremendously. He started going to church more. He started wanting to have that relationship with God. Started doing, different like little activities. He actually went and lived with one of his other best friends that I think really, really like helped him because all of my husband friends love me. Like I'm just that girl that they're like, man, you stupid. Like we love Tomice. Like they all love me. They still to this day call me their sis, like their wives, where I'm cool with their wives or girlfriends. Like we are just family. And so I think he had a guy in his ear that had actually been around since we had started dating. And he basically was just like, you need to get your stuff together. You got this beautiful girl, you got these two kids, and you out here making these childish mistakes. You need to grow up. And so I think with him in his ear, his relationship with God made him fight for us hard. Now, this time it wasn't as easy. The other time was a little easy. He said a little love song and told me this. And I was just like, okay. But at this point, I have rebuilt Tamise. So those little love songs, those little love notes, those I'm gonna do better. You gotta show it to me. Gotta prove it. And so he put in the work. I mean, like was coming to the school, being there because granted the kids went to the school that I worked at. So of course, you know, he's gonna see them, he's gonna see me. So he would, bring flowers and it would tell me I want my family back. We started really talking. We kind of got back on track like how it was when we first got together. We were friends, joking. I would tell him about stuff that the kids did. And my thing with him was I wanted to always show up as a unit at the school. That's another thing. I don't care what we got going on. When it comes down to these kids, we need to be one. Our kids need to know that no matter what's going on in our life, we're going to show up together as a unit and advocate on their behalf. And so that's what we started to do. Um, and he had a couple of, I'll say mental breakdown situations that happened to him to where he ended up having to seek out therapy. And with him going to therapy, that is how I got introduced to our therapist because he started wanting to do family counseling.
I see.
And so that kind of brought everything together. We were able to do family counseling. We started, because at this point, I'm just focusing on me, but the kids are seeing all of this. So the
Yes.
kids are also affected by, okay, daddy's here and then daddy's gone. Okay, they're breaking up again. Oh, now daddy's back. We're happy. So they were really confused. And so my thing was I wanted a whole complete family. Oftentimes we forget about the kids. We get so stuck on our feelings that we don't realize how it's affecting them. And so we started all doing counseling together, and started, just kind of talking about different things. And so family counseling turned into premarital counseling, which then led to us officially saying I do.
So, wow. How long did it take before you start believing him again and trusting him?
Whew, it took a while. It took I know at least 6 or 7, maybe even 8 months. It
Okay.
like I was going with the flow, I was still, talking and anything, but my guard was always
You
up.
like,
Yep. Yep.
nope, nope, I saw what you did.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yes. I questioned everything. I mean, the things that, if he used to talk to me a certain way when I was young, I'm like, that's not me. I'm not she no more. I'm somebody different. We gonna learn how to communicate a little bit better, So I became a different version. And he realized that because he was just like, who are you? Like because I gave off this, and I would always tell him, I love having you here. I love that we're trying to, bring our family back together. I really want us to grow and do that. However, I've gotten to a point in my life that I love you, but I love me more.
Mm,
And if at any time you feel like you can't be the role of this husband, or that you're trying to be, let me know. I'm okay. I've rebuilt myself to understand that that may not happen, and there's no love lost. Nothing will change. That you are the father of my kids. But please don't marry me because you feel like you have to. Because I'm a new Tomice. I'm not the old Tomice anymore. And so I think that made a difference. Really learning me, and knowing that in spite of I could make it with or without him. I think that kind of is what turned that corner.
for sure. So what was this wedding? I'm sorry, did he propose again? How did we get to the wedding? How did that come into play?
So at this point, we went very because at first we were very public with everything. We were very like everybody knew. I mean to this day, everybody they see shots or when they saw shots, they was to me. They put us they thought we were Beyonce and Jay-Z, like we were just that couple. But in the midst of our healing season, we were quiet. Nobody knew that we were trying to rekindle anything, except maybe our close friends, family knew it. But as far as anything else, nobody knew. Nobody knew anything. And we chose to do it that way. And so what we did, he asked me, it wasn't like he got back on his knee again. He just kind of was like, hey, I'm ready. I want us to get married. And I kind of side out. I'm like, okay, I've heard this before. He's like, no, I'm serious. Like, I want us to get married. You tell me, let's go do it tomorrow. We can go to the courthouse tomorrow. Like, I'm ready. And I wanted to go ahead and do that, but then a piece of me was like, no, I'm gonna wait it out. I'm gonna wait out for a little bit just to make sure, your headspace is the same. And it was. And so about 2 or 3 months later, we decided to go ahead. We did something really small. We ended up going to one of the church that he ended up attending in Warner Robins, Georgia. And actually the pastor was one of his good friends. Pastor Poole was a very good friend of his, and so he was delighted to hear that we were to get married. And so he basically was like, look, you can have this portion of the building. I'm not charging you nothing. Just give me a love offering, however you want it, because I'm just so happy for this union to come. And so we did things our way. We didn't, I didn't have I only had my sister and one of my other good friends was, with me. And then he had his two best friends. I told them to put on this color dress. And like we did it our way. And we invited a few little friends, family, people that had been a part of the Shasta and Timmy's team. We invited them. And when I tell you, it was a beautiful, beautiful ceremony. We didn't do anything extra. And as a matter of fact, after our wedding, we decided for our little honeymoon, I guess, because he was big on basketball. We got a hotel in Atlanta downtown, went to Atlanta Hawks game, and just enjoyed each other. And we did it our way. And that was one of the most happiest days of his life and mine. I mean, it was like, and then when we announced it to where we posted a picture of us and we put Romans 8:28, and because that was one of our favorite scriptures. And then we put down, we's married now, and my last name changed. And I mean, when I say that everybody, like, I think we broke the internet. Like, I think we should have got a check off of how many people was like, oh my God, we didn't even know y'all were together. Congratulations, power couple. I mean, it was just to see the joy of everybody that was just so excited. His phone blowing up, my phone blowing up. But it was beautiful, and to see that smile on our kids' faces. I mean, they were so happy. It made a difference. It did.
Wow. Can you share a memory or two that you remember from your being married with Shasta?
You said a memory or two of us
Of
being
your
married?
wedding, your marriage, of your marriage.
So My husband was a very tough guy. Like you look at him, he's always like, like mugging all the time. And I remember I was so nervous because my dad walked me down. And I remember, and my dad, he's a jokester. He loves cracking jokes. That's me, his thing. We crack jokes all the time. And so he's trying to get me, to not cry because he's like, don't you cry, don't you cry, don't you cry. And our wedding song, I mean, it was perfect. It was by Major, This Is Why I Love You. It was a very popular song that time that everybody was getting married to. But it meant so much to us because it described our whole love story. It described everything. And so as I was walking in, getting ready to turn the corner, I look up at him and he's just like, and the tears are coming, and I'm just like I'm shocked because he was such a tough guy, and his friends made it funny, like they would tap him on the shoulder or like, try to wipe one of his friends wiping his eyes, trying to make it funny. Um, and I'll never forget just walking down, and it was like in that moment, I was like, this is really happening. Like this is like I'm about to be a bride. Like I'm about to be a wife. And I just remember looking in the audience and seeing everybody that had shared our story because everybody was there. They had shared some part in our story and just seeing the tears on their face and seeing the smiles and everybody was just so happy. And so it was just a very touching moment for me. Like it just, and then his grandmother was there. And well, both of his grandparents were there, but he loves his grandmother. And I'll never forget when I was in the room getting ready, putting my makeup on and everything, she came and she broke down and cried. And she said, I'm so glad that my grandson is lucky to have a wife like you. And to hear her say that to me, because me and her bumped heads at first. We bumped heads in a way of she's one of those type of woman that will what comes up comes out, and she would kind of, I would call and try to talk to him on the phone back in the day, and she was like, I was like, where is he? You don't ask nobody where he's at, so those elders are. They like to
I'm about
get
to
you.
say, you get grandma age, you like, I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say and do what I'm gonna do, and y'all gonna have to live with it.
Yes, yes, and that was his grandma Glory. That was hers. You don't call me asking on my phone. He'll
On
call
my
you when he get
phone.
home. Yes, ma'am. So but I used to think, oh, she don't like me, but to hear her say that and she hugged me and just broke down and cried and just said, I'm so glad that my grandson is marrying a girl like you. It just overwhelmed.
Mm,
So beautiful. So touching.
wow. Were your children in the wedding?
Yes, yes. So our son was his little groomsman, and my daughter was supposed to have been the flower girl, but she thought she was the bride, the bridesmaid, and the flower girl at the same time. And there's a picture of us where and the photographer did it for me because I told the photographer I like everything to be natural. I don't want you to tell me to pose for anything. I want you to snap stuff. And so there's a picture of me, and I'm actually bending down, and my daughter is. I was talking to her, and she looks and she grabs my face and she gives me a kiss. And she, mommy, I'm so happy. And she snapped that moment, and it was just such a joyous occasion just to hear her say that.
Wow. So what was it like being married?
It was great. It was really good being married. Of course, we still had our ups and downs, but we thrived so well as a couple. He was able to find out what his purpose was in life. So he ended up opening up businesses. He had a credit consulting company that he helped people fix their credit. He ended up launching a clothing line, which is now our son's clothing line because he's 18. So they got an LLC together called GFB, God Family Business. He was a sports agent, so he used his gift of helping other players that want to go play ball overseas. He would connect them with agents over there. And for some strange reason, which I don't know why he did this because we didn't have any pets, he opened up a pet store. Um, so we really just as a couple thrived. I continued on with my education endeavors. I was a teacher still at that point. And it was just lovely. It was like we were the best of friends. His goal was to he would always tell me, "Baby, we're gonna live life. We're gonna live life. We have been raising kids and we've been, just, basically struggling to get to this point. So we're gonna enjoy life." So we ended up getting a house in McDonough, Georgia, where I'm currently at now. And just, watching our kids grow, we were able to just really, really enjoy each other. And
Wow.
beautiful thing, beautiful. I mean, we had fun. We were, going out, just really just living the life that I always wanted to live.
Beautiful. I will ask this question and I'll let you take us wherever you want in this part, but I don't want to interrupt. Can you share what led up to his passing and that process?
So, it was right around 2021 when COVID well, we were starting to hear the news a whole lot about COVID. And so my husband was the type of guy that, he didn't believe everything that he heard or whatever. He says, "Oh, it's just the flu, they're just trying to scare us. I'm gonna live my life. I'm not gonna let this stop me." And so he lived accordingly. He, kept doing his thing. He kept, helping others with his business and everything. And I'll never forget the night he had an outing that he went to, and he came home. And actually this is a point, so to kind of set the story, I had currently so I was at so the school that I'm at now, I had actually left because I had got offered a counseling position in the county that I currently live in Henry County. So I was in a transition because this happened in July. So I was in my pre-planning, getting ready to get started with a new career. So everything that I had in my um current county before kind of was like, was gone. I didn't have anything else because everything transferred over to Henry. And so I remember he came home and started off with coughing really bad. He was just like, "Oh my God, I don't know what this is." And, I would say, "Well, baby, take some medicine for it." But my husband was that guy, "Mm-mm, I'm all right, I don't need no medicine. If I do, I'll take some NyQuil, knock it out, and I'll be fine." But I noticed that as the days went on, that cough got worse. He was complaining more about chest hurting, and then he stopped wanting to eat. And so, I was back and forth then because mind you, I had just started a new job. So we had teacher pre-planning. So I had to, attend that. But the actual building was not that far from home. It was like 5 minutes. So I would go do my classes, come home, try to check on him, and then go back. So we ended up going into week 2 and things kept getting worse. He was couldn't sleep, didn't want to eat, constantly coughing, talking about he couldn't catch his breath. At this point, his mom started getting concerned because he refused to go to the doctor. He was like, "No, I'm not going to no doctor. I'm fine." So his mom was like, "Okay, I'm coming up." So his mom ended up coming up, and she was trying to see what was going on. We were all trying to convince him to go to the doctor. It got so bad to the point where one day he fell to the floor and he's like, I cannot breathe. I
Mm,
can't." Hence, we called 911. They came and his oxygen level was like practically like down to like the lowest percentage possible. Um, but because at that time, that's when COVID was really, really bad and everybody was trying to figure everything out, the ambulance the guy that was in the ambulance had told us like, I'm just gonna be honest, if we take him to the hospital right now, he may sit there for hours and hours and hours because it's just so many people at this hospital and we don't know what to do. So he was like, "We can give him a little breathing machine to help him out. Hopefully that'll increase his oxygen. But if things get worse, please call us back. We'll come and get him." So he decided to stay and suffer. Now, in the midst of all of me trying to take care of him, I get COVID.
mm,
Um, and so now you got two parents down. So then my mom had to come up, and so they're trying to take care of the kids, they're trying to take care of us. I wasn't necessarily as bad as him. Like I still could breathe, but it was just the normal COVID typical symptoms, fever, loss of taste, loss of smell. So he still trying to use the machine to breathe, but it's just not getting any better. So we go into the third week where now he's starting to cough up blood. So I made an executive decision and I was like, no, you are going to the doctor. We've got to figure out what is going on with you. I don't care how long you have to sit. I'd rather you be in the hospital where there's care that can take care of you than you sitting at home and we have no idea what to do.
Right.
So my mom rides with him to go to the hospital, and he's there for a couple of hours, and then I get the call and he says, babe, he said they're saying that I have COVID and I have pneumonia. And they're telling me that my oxygen level is deadly. He was like, I'm scared. Um, and so I said, okay. I was like, do they have you on something to help you breathe? He was like, yeah. He was like, but they're saying that my symptoms are so bad that they may need to transport me to another hospital because right now they don't have enough beds for me. And I just really need to go get help now because, honestly, they're talking about if I don't get help, I could possibly pass away. So they end up taking him to a hospital further up in Atlanta, Northside Hospital. And there's where he stayed for the next couple of weeks. They did have to intubate him, and he fought it. So now I'm having anxiety because for every tough milestone in his life, I've been there. From the time of us being together at the age of 16 all the way up to now, I've never not been by his side. And so then that's when they had really strict COVID restrictions, like nobody could be there. Plus, I already had COVID, so they weren't gonna let me go anyway. And so I only could communicate with him by phone. And so the conversation started getting weirder and weirder because he was losing so much oxygen. He was to the brain. He wasn't able to, he was paranoid. Everybody was out to get him. He was angry with everybody, and so, um, it was very traumatic for me because all I could do was try to talk him down. But, I can only imagine you in a hospital full of strangers and you have no family and you're hearing what can happen to people who have COVID. And so they finally allowed his mom to come up and be with them to see him. She begged and pleaded, and they was like, she was like, I think I can talk to him because they wanted to put him on the ECMO machine, which is a machine that they put you to see the induced coma, and it allows your lungs to rest and it circulates the blood through your body to help you breathe. But your body is really like sleeping, but he was afraid to be put to sleep. And so his mom was like, we got to, this, because he wanted to stay on the ventilator, but the ventilator wasn't strong enough for him.
Oh.
So finally, after raising Cain, the nurse is calling me like, oh my God, your husband is up here. He has kicked us out the room. We got to come back in the room. He won't let us take his vitals. Like, we are trying to work with him, but he has got to stop yelling at us. And so my mother-in-law was able to kind of talk to him. Was like, these people are here to help you, baby. You've got to stop fighting. And I think because he fought so hard, he wore himself out.
Mm.
So I remember at this point, I'm starting to feel a little bit better. And I remember he called me. Well, his nurse called me, and she said he is finally tired of fighting us. He's willing to let us put him on the machine. And I said, okay. I said, let me talk to him because I need to hear that out of his mouth. And so he got on the phone. We FaceTimed, and he looked at me and he said, I'm tired, baby. I'm tired. And I said, okay. I said, I know. I said, but let these doctors take care of you. I said, and, just rest. I said, you need rest right now. And he said, okay. He said, I'm just tired. I'm just tired. And then he said, then I started coughing. And so in the midst of him being tired, he was like, cover your mouth. Stop coughing. So our kids in the house. And I said, okay, I am. He was like, he's like, are you eating? He was like, I do not want you to come in the hospital. So whatever you need to do, you better do it because you got to take care of our kids. And I was like, we're going to take care of our kids. Stop talking like that. And then of course we said, we got a chance, to say, I love you. And I told him, I said, I'll see you soon. And they put him to sleep and he was not ever able to kind of wake up out of that.
Mm.
Yeah.
I am so sorry. And I know sometimes we can recant those experiences and it's just like, okay. And sometimes it's like, okay, it's getting kind of tough right here. So I know you reached out to me because you wanted to be able to share your story. You wanted other widows and predominantly younger widows to know they are not alone. And also a lot of people lost loved ones during COVID, and it's not just a number. Each one of those lives is someone's story. And you wanted people to know and validate their experience and share your husband's memory in
Yeah,
doing that. And I thank you for wanting to do that. But I know it comes at a cost. There's a price to do that. And
yeah,
so I don't take that lightly. And this has to be really hard.
it is. And I think one of the most difficult part in it is that, so at the end, because my faith it stayed strong throughout the whole entire time. I called every single day. Now, mind you, in the midst of going through this, I'm still having to push myself because guess what? I got a new job. I've got to show up. And so I worked through this while he was at
And
the
no
hospital.
leave because you said everything had to start over. So you're in a new system with, and you're the fresh one on the block. You have no seniority. They don't know you. They don't have this long history. So there's a lot to do with that.
It's a new position because it's my first time ever being a counselor. And so I'm so grateful that God knows where to send you in those times because I could not have asked for a better administration. When I tell you my principal, Dr. Walden and Mr. Grant, um, were like heaven sent because he told me from day one, he said, I don't care what you're doing, I don't care where you're at. If you get a call about your husband, you are leaving. You are going. This building will be here when you get back. But you take as much time as you need to. He said, I'm human before I'm anything else. And just having, again, that support kind of alleviated a lot of stress. And even for like the first couple of weeks of when school started, he did not make me come back. He said, you take as much time as you need. You come back when you're ready. And so, but that my anxiety was always high because it's like I'm trying to work, but I'm scared I'm gonna miss his phone call because I'm constantly having to talk to the doctor because at this point he's under induced coma, so he's not able to call me. So I'm having to call and how is his day going today? How was this? How was that? And I never in my life thought I would have to learn so many terms and learn what
Mm.
this meant, that meant, and this level and that level. Um, but I think the most traumatic part, which all of this is traumatic, was when we had that last call and they called a meeting. They called a care team meeting. Now, I am never naive. And like I said, I worked in the special education department. So I know sometimes when we are calling a meeting with a team, when we're calling it, it's not necessarily something good. It's something that we've discovered and we need to take other measures. And so I'll never forget because at this time, my mom and my mother-in-law had stayed with me at the house. And they had called me and they asked for a care team meeting. And they was like, can you come in? And I said, well, me and my mother-in-law will be in because any decision that needs to be made, we've got to make it together. I know I'm the wife, but this is her son. So it's just as important. And so we went in and we sat at the table. And I remember I knew every doctor, but there was one person in particular that I did not know. And I remember because at this point I'm angry because I'm not crazy. I know what you're calling me for. And I look at this lady and I say, who are you? And she says, I'm the chaplain. And immediately my heart dropped. And I think I was pretty ugly to her. I'm gonna be honest. I think I told her, we don't need you. I pray every day. He got his own pastor. This is you're only in here when somebody about to die, and my husband is not about to die. Um, and I remember her saying, "No, I'm just here for support. I don't need your support." I mean, I was adamant at her. Like I wanted her out. Um, but what happened was they were trying to find ways to save my husband. But basically the pneumonia had set in so bad that they were hoping that the fluid buildup was going to be outside of his heart because that's an easy fix. They could do a little minor surgery, burn it off, and he would be fine. But upon discovering when they went and did further tests, they discovered that his the mucus buildup was internal.
Mm.
So it was hardening his lungs. from the inside. And at this point, there's only one or two options. We decide to just go ahead and let him go, or we try to fight to get him a lung transplant, which at this point in it, he was so sick that he probably wouldn't have survived surgery. And so
Right.
the hardest decision was that I had to make was if I was going to just take everything off and let him transition. Um, and that was a very tough decision.
Yes.
And I thank God I had my mother in love because we made it together. And it's something that for the longest used to hunt me, like, did I give up on him? Did I just, could he have fought harder? But then the other side of me looking at it from just everything that I saw and everything that I personally knew and things that I was just starting to see signs of, um, it was very, very traumatic. But we made that decision, and he got a chance. All of his close family and friends, and like I said, Northside Hospital was just phenomenal in this whole transition. They allowed us to FaceTime so that he could hear his grandparents, and we've told
Mm.
them. And the one thing, when I was saying that kids taking everything and kids are so resilient, when we decided to let my husband transition to be with God, I couldn't stay in the room. I just didn't want to imagine that with him, but my son begged to stay. And so my son and his mom and my mom stayed in there with him as he transitioned. And my son to this day said it's the best decision he ever made because he felt like he got a chance to spend the last moments with his dad.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what year was this?
2021.
2021.
August 16, 2021 is when he transitioned. 10 days before my birthday. Yep.
Do you recall anything of that first birthday?
Um, I remember I had friends that came over. Because we did like a little party at my house. But I couldn't tell. They did videos so that I could remember, and every now and again I'll go back and look at them. But I was just like, I don't remember none of this. Like, and you can see it. I'm just like, I'm smiling, but not really smiling. Like, I didn't want to blow out the candle for the cake because I'm like, what am I wishing for? My world has just been taken from me, so I don't want to. I'm here, he's not. It was just a lot of emotions, but we did do a little something.
Thank you for mentioning that your world has imploded and what are we doing? And so now you're on the fifth moment of life without him, and now you know it's permanent. You will not have him again. And here you are now wanting to help other widows, other people who are going through their own difficult moment. What was the pivot to get from that moment to where you are wanting to help others?
So, I've always been a believer that there's a purpose for everything. Um, Purpose in your pain, purpose in your struggles. And I knew that as a young widow, like I said, it's I'm not gonna say it's not a lot of resources out there because I mean I'm quite sure there are, but in that moment, you feel alone. You feel like, what do I what do I do next? I was constantly Googling a book. Is there a book about grief? Is there a good book like, okay, this month you can do this. This month you can do this. And it hit me because I had a cousin because well, I've had a lot of friends and family that have lost their spouse and they young. And it hit me one day when one of my cousins, which her husband had passed away before my husband did. And, I always do inspirational posts on my Facebook. I always try to, I'm very transparent. I try to tell people, hey, look, I know it hurts, but you just can't get stuck. You got to keep going. And I remember she wrote me and said, it's been about 5 or 6 years since I've lost my husband, and I'm still not at the point that you're at. And I don't know how to get there. I feel stuck. And she said, "You are just so strong to me." And it was in that moment that I said, wow, they're people handle grief differently. And I tell people all the time, you handle grief however you handle grief. There is no book. There is no timeline on anything of what you're supposed to do. But I knew that my life still had a purpose. And I knew that I did not want to wake up every day living a nightmare, being stuck there. I refused to get stuck there because at the end of the day, I still have 2 kids I got to take care of. And if mama's not okay, then they're not going to be okay. And so I took all of that in, and I pushed myself to keep going, and the fact that my husband had always told me from the time that we were dating that if anything ever happens to me, you better not stop. You better keep living. And so I kind of, all of that stuck with me. And, that is kind of what makes me want to encourage others, because I know there's some out there that, are lost, as young widows. So.
And what are the ways in which you are encouraging people and sharing your story with others?
So I actually do a whole bunch of TikToks. Purposeful Widow is the username if anybody wants to find me. And I also have founded a company. It's still a work in progress, but it's also Purposeful Widow, where I'm just basically getting on there, just trying to send some encouraging words, and trying to let the young widow community know that you're not alone, and don't beat yourself up. There's no timeline on how long you can grieve. The only thing that I ask is that you don't get stuck, that you put one foot in front of the other, and however that journey looks like for you, you take it. But just don't settle and get stuck to the point where you lose you, and you lose out on the fact that you're still here to live a purpose in life.
Are you on any other social media platforms besides TikTok?
Well, I have yes, so I have a Facebook page. It's also Purposeful Widow that if anybody wants to connect with me, that's on there. And then like I said, I have the TikTok Purposeful Widow as well. So those are the two social media streams that I use to kind of get it out there. I'm hoping in the future, my goal is I want to start doing public speaking. So I got some things brewing with that, just trying to really get this platform started so that I can have different avenues to help support young widows.
Beautiful. So when you reached out to me and thought about having this conversation, was there anything you wanted to cover or talk about that we did not mention today?
Um, well, yeah, I wanted to make sure that I just got that message out there about moving forward. Since my husband's passing, I have done so much. I came up with a theme. Well, my theme word before I had mentioned was becoming. But that really became my word when my husband passed, because as wives, we have so many different identities. A lot of times, we when we're married, we get caught up in our spouse's identity, and we kind of not necessarily lose ourselves, but some of our things kind of fall off because we're trying to be that root to help, support our spouse. And so when my husband passed away, I wanted to reinvent myself. I wanted to I've always been known as Shasta's wife, but I wanted to show the world of what Tomice's life looked like. And so I like I said, I went back to school. I got another degree. I have excelled in leadership. I just celebrate my son graduated from high school, which he will be attending college in the fall, which I cried like a baby because I was like, it was a struggle, trying to keep him on the right track. My daughter is getting ready to go to middle school, and she is just so stinking smart, and just I said, I don't know who you get your brains from, girl, because you just be out here just doing the thing, and it's like you don't have to study. But just making sure that you continue to push in life, and whatever it is you want to do, you do. If you have the desire to date again, date again. If you have a desire to move to another state or to go back to school or to whatever it is that you have a desire to do it with reassurance and don't feel guilty about it. Don't feel gui
Mm.
I think a lot of times we feel guilty about doing certain things. Like, I know a couple of months after my husband passed away, my, other best friend, named Tiara, took me on a trip. And it was just a simple trip. We went to Destin, Florida, and just had a good time. But I remember feeling guilty in that moment because I'm like, I'm out here celebrating life because it was shortly after my birthday, and I just lost my husband. Um, and I remember that setting into my spirit, but then I had to realize, you know what? Because my husband passed away, yes, that was a very traumatic part of my life, and I will never forget it. But life doesn't stop for me. Life doesn't, it's not the end. I'm still here for a reason. My husband served his purpose. What God wanted him to do, he allowed him to do, and he was ready for him to come home. So I think it's all about, you know, going through the process, being real with yourself, but ultimately becoming whoever it is that you feel that you are destined to do and doing it without any guilt because there's no book for grief at all.
Wow. I've asked you a lot of questions. Any questions of me?
No, you have really just inspired me. That is how I was able to um
Mm.
get connected. You have you some of the and I don't think you even really know because we never really talked about it, but
No.
just hearing your story and just seeing how, you created this platform for us widows to have a voice and you being so transparent and, I don't personally know you, but just watching your TikToks and seeing how you are an example of exactly what I'm saying of just living life and, navigating this journey. I just feel like it's one of those things where you inspired me.
No.
You inspired me and just, seeing and like I said, I'm quite sure you have your ups and you have your downs, but
Oh,
just,
yes.
you know, honoring, your husband and, still, you know, honoring all of his legacy and all the memories that you guys shared. I think that really, helped me out because that was something that I was kind of struggling with a little bit of, like, how can I move on, or if I start dating or whatever, how can I do that and still honor my husband, my late husband, and you have been a great example of how that's
Okay, I
possible.
wasn't ready for that. Thank you. I will just say thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
You're
I
welcome.
will let you close out this conversation to our audience and our listeners and everyone that's taking part in the conversation.
So I hope that I have been able to inspire someone on this platform today. My ultimate message is, being a young widow, it's not easy. Ended up having to be a single mom, not been easy. But if you just put one foot in front of the other, and if you just take it by stride and live your grief how you can live your grief, I promise you that, things will get better. And just know that I am a very down to earth person. If you want to reach out to me on TikTok, like I said, it's Purposeful Widow. If you want to send me a message, if you want to follow me on Facebook, Purposeful Widow, I am here with any questions that you may have. I may not have all the answers, but I will try my best to navigate you and help you through this process. But just know you are not alone, and we are a community and we are a family, and we're going to all get through this together.
Thank you for being here and thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for spending another episode with Widowhood Real Talk. If you found the contents of today helpful, share the episode to anyone you know who may need it. Subscribe to the show and tune into Widowhood Real Talk each week. Then visit widowhood-realtalkwithtina.org to join the community and access additional resources. Remember, you are not alone in this journey.